Welcome back, Dota 2 fans. We got our second BO1 of the day, BTS Series number 4, Europe Division tiebreakers for Group C. Fantastic 5. Taking on Virtus.Pro after beating Pro Dota in Game 1. Pro Dota with a major misstep or poorly chosen fight at the Roche Pit is going to seal the deal for them. Fantastic 5 looking to make it into the playoffs if they win this game against VP. MRP Mike Lars here to chronicle the action.
Maybe I'm going to be a little bit greedy by saying this, or a little bit biased perhaps. I don't want Fantastic Five to win, just 2 wins easy, we're done. I want VP to make it at least more interesting. At least that. At least give me that, guys. But yeah, otherwise, I don't really care. I don't know if last game was Fantastic Five winning or Pro Dota losing. Probably a little bit more of the latter, but Fantastic Five, their team fights were pretty good. But again, it's all in the context of like Pro Dota kind of setting themselves up to fail. So I'm not really sure how Fantastic Five are actually performing today, since it seems like that game was kind of just thrown away more so by Pro Dota than it was won by Fantastic Five. But hey, this is a new game. We'll see what they have to bring to the table. Looks like we're gonna have the defensive heroes, Shadow Demon and Oracle, being kicked out. Got the Drow and the Kunkka there, and that means Io is going to be the first pick. I don't think I've seen Fantastic Five play this recently, although they do play it, quite a bit.
Yeah, they play it quite a lot, but yeah, definitely not something that's been on the radar. And often it's banned out in the first phase, but Virtus.Pro opt to ban out the Drow Ranger instead. So they will go for the IO, look for a potential OD pick here going forward for BZZ, but the Sand King for now is going to be the opening from Virtus.Pro. Mirana there as well. So just two very strong heroes, generally considered strong heroes. In the recent post-TI meta. Fantastic Five going to open up with an early Alchemist here. Very interesting decision from them.
I mean, Alchemist with IO definitely is a good combo. I mean, the amount of farm you can get when you have that mobility, the overcharge and whatnot, and of course the effectiveness in the team fights, the reduced damage from the overcharge, it's all incredible for the Alchemist. That being said, it is, as you said, rather early because Sand King, Mirana are typically heroes that the way they want to play is a way that just counters Alchemists. They usually want to go really deep, early game, mid game, try to get the aggression going early on, and Alchemist doesn't want that. Alchemist wants to turtle a little bit longer. He wants to get his farm up. He needs as little pressure on his lane as possible, but it clearly doesn't seem like Virtus.Pro have that in mind, at least with this opening. I mean, it is likely that Mirana is going towards mid, tanking towards off lane. They won't really play together all that much, but it does seem like Virtus.Pro right now have the cores that they can fill in with supports that'll just apply a ton of pressure to the Alchemist, and if Alchemist is behind, then suddenly IO is kind of useless as well.
Yeah, speaking of pressure, Timbersaw going to be the ban coming out from Fantastic Five. Darkseer is actually a hero that I see Virtus.Pro pick up fairly often, but picking up the Sand King is going to mean that more than likely they'll fill the same role. But they have been playing a bit of Warlock recently, and in fact they had success with it against F5 in the last group stage matchup here. So, speaking of applying pressure, seeing something good against the relocate, and that chaotic offering may be something they're considering adding to their arsenal going forward. But either way, in terms of this new VP lineup, at least in BTS Series 4, they've looked a bit innocuous. With the amount of talent they had, they've tied up both Pro Dota and F5, and that's why we find ourselves here in these tiebreakers. So we'll see if they can kind of get some momentum under their heels. They definitely have the talent. If you look at these names, Ramses and No One, certainly the standouts in terms of the safe and mid lane players. So No One specifically can completely take games over. We'll see how he fares against these wily vets over on F5 side. But the Batrider ban is going to come out for now. I'm going to be denying that away from Golden Star.
I mean, both these teams, just a whole stack of just really, really good players. And I think that most of them have found some like pretty high degrees of success just on like random ass teams. The shuffle is real, especially with these two teams. And I think like Vega, another one of those huge shuffle teams. But here we go, VP. Grab the Ancient Apparition. Early game pressure, maybe not huge. It really does depend on the lanes, but man, who could say no to Ice Blast versus an Alchemist and an IO? Feels good, man.
This is very scary combination they're building thus far. I mean, they can throw the Sand King or the Mirana in the support role and pick up a Void against IO +1 with an AA, with an Epicenter, with a Sacred Arrow to throw into that Chronosphere. That is an extremely potent combo, but just in and of themselves, these three are definitely very scary. You know, Blink, Burrow Strike into Ice Blast can be just as effective as that initiation with the Chronosphere. But I definitely feel like Faceless Void has to be a consideration for this fifth ban for Fantastic Five side. We'll see what direction they want to go in terms of themselves. They are going to need some sort of space creation for this Alchemist, at least early on. At the very least, they're going to need some sort of stable, self-sufficient safe laner.
And I mean, it doesn't really seem like they have any like easy picks to make, in the sense that Ancient Apparition, his ultimate, is just always going to affect the Alchemist and IO. There's no counter really, except for killing off the Ancient Apparition beforehand, applying pressure. And again, that's what it's all about here for Fantastic Five. As far as things that they probably can counter, it is maybe the fact that you know, Mirana and Sand King are both killable heroes
Low armor
in
as
the
well.
lane without having a ton of support. And there you go. There's a kill here right there, Nyx Assassin. Space creation, probably like the poster child with the Night Stalker.
Sure. I was looking at Slardar for that slot. I thought that was a very Fantastic Five type hero that similarly fills a role to Nyx Assassin. Also synergizes well with the Acid Spray. A lot of minus armor there. Sand King, Ancient Apparition, very low armor heroes early on. So I still think that's a consideration. Slardar IO is pretty scary. Much in the same respect, Ursa could be a consideration for Fantastic Five, but for now they're going to go for that kind of CIS poster child, as you were mentioning, with the Nyx Assassin. They've got to relocate on top of that, so fairly reliable ganking combination. IO +1 plus the Nyx Assassin to open up. I like the pick from Fantastic Five.
I mean, it's definitely a hard to punish pick just in lane. The Ancient Apparition is a pretty good start just by having Chilling Touch, but I mean, if there's a Sand King support for whatever reason, or a Mirana support, they can't really function up against an Assassin with Spike Carapace. So it's a very safe pick here for Fantastic Five. As you said, the Relocate definitely has a lot of synergy with the Assassin. They have the luxury of perhaps going a little bit deeper as well. It really does depend on where the IO is hanging around most of the time, and they can, you know, maybe set up some kind of jank combos with the Nyx Assassin. We've seen Nyx Assassin Lifestealer quite a bit. Not really sure if that's in the card, especially right now up against the Faceless Void. That's probably off the table.
Yeah.
But just that extra scouting, being able to spot out for where is safe to farm for the Alchemist, where it's not safe to farm, very valuable for the Nyx. But I mean, VP, they have just a monstrous team fight lineup. Even with Spike Carapace jamming it up a little bit, I don't really think it's going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed too attractive not to go for. That's why I was mentioning the Faceless Void there. It doesn't really hurt their lanes all that much, as they still have very stable lanes. And, you know, if Virtus.Pro can even trade evenly in these lanes, once their ultimates are up on these four heroes, they're going to become a very, very scary combination. So I really like the pick from VP. I think that Fantastic Five they're going to be hard pressed to be finding picks with this Nyx Assassin. Their window is going to be entirely when the Chronosphere and the Epicenter are on cooldown, and they're going to have to get things done during that period in order to buy the space for this Alchemist to get to that 25-minute mark.
Shadow Shaman, I'm not sure if that's really the hero. The control is incredible versus the Faceless Void, the Mirana, the Sand King, all of whom have, you know, kind of get out of jail free blink effects on their heroes. So the extra disables along with the Nyx Assassin, you do have kind of a nice 1-2 punch in the disable combos, and maybe in the early stages that can get some kills. But there's just so much burst damage here on VP that someone like Shadow Shaman, who has a spell that literally disables himself, odds are that's not going to fly. You're not going to be able to survive long enough to actually do that. And as far as playing aggressively for Fantastic Five, Nyx Assassin and Shadow Shaman play very differently in the fact that Nyx Assassin just kills heroes, Shadow Shaman more so kills the structures, and Alchemist kind of does neither until super late in the game. So I feel like this is just a pick for Fantastic Five where they just pick up a Hex. Like, that's all he is right now, just a Hex and an Ether Shock.
Begs the question, why not Lion in that case? I mean, either way, two of them are going to be very much susceptible to the burst as well as the Chronosphere. They're easy target, low-hanging fruits in terms of if they're getting caught in a Chronosphere. You know, if Sand King initiates on them, they're more likely that going to die. But basically, the way I look at it is they want a good two-person safe lane, and Shadow Shaman offers you a lot as an early laner just by his lonesome. So they're gonna pick up the Night Stalker here, so completely switching gears. And to some respect, this kind of maybe implies that the Alchemist is going to go for a little bit more fight heavy build early on rather than kind of get to that Manta Octarine stage. So this will be interesting to see how Fantastic 5 ends up faring here. But this is definitely CIS Dota at its finest on the Radiant side. The one great thing is that, if you're able to silence up this Void or disable up the Void, maybe even burn his mana with the Nyx Assassin, I feel like a lot of focus is going to go his way. But if they can eliminate the Chronosphere from the fight, I think that's going to bode well for Fantastic 5. It's just that Virtus.Pro has assembled such a potent lineup thus far that it doesn't simply come down to eliminating one hero. We'll see how they're able to get done. I think it's a great idea for Fantastic 5 in the sense that, we talked about if you get out of the lanes with an even early game for Virtus.Pro, this game's going to be very hard for Fantastic 5, and Night Stalker doesn't want to allow that to happen. He just wants to completely dominate these lanes. So Slark is going to be the final pickup. It's going to mean more than likely Mirana will be in the support position, and yeah, it is Lil to pick it up. So for now, it's actually no one picking up the Sand King, so that'll be likely towards the mid lane where Pasha gets the off lane Void, and he's just going to look to find his levels here. So it's a bit worrisome that, Pasha could get shut down heavily in his lane, but all he needs to be is a Chronosphere. He's got an Ice Blast, he's got an Epicenter, and he's got an arrow to throw into his Chrono. So if he can get his levels, that's going to bode well. But we'll see how this Illidan Night Stalker fares for Fantastic 5.
Yeah, the Night Stalker pick is just fantastic up against what VP have. Again, they have all these get out of jail free cards. Slark, very similar. If you're able to get the jump on him, Crippling Fear is going to be an absolute all-star in this game. But Night Stalker, Nyx Assassin, these are, as we said, it's just two of the hugest pressure heroes possible. The Alchemist, I don't even remember the last time I've seen him go for like this kind of battle, concoction and go fight build. It's always a possibility, but it's never really going to happen. But for Fantastic 5, these two can just lock down the early game, Nyx Assassin and the Night Stalker. And with Shadow Shaman to kind of complement them, VP, they need to have more heroes than Fantastic 5 at any given time. That's really difficult when you are in nighttime, or there's an Assassin with Vendetta, or there's an IO with level 6. And it just seems like most of the time, Fantastic 5 are going to have a slight numeric advantage with the amount of useful disables that they have. It's fine if they just make even trades, which is probably not even going to happen because that means the Alchemist is going to farm. So this is probably the best way for Fantastic 5 to kind of escape this huge AoE teamfight combo VP just by being super proactive early on, getting the picks, getting the vision, most importantly, once this Night Stalker gets an Aghanim Scepter. That all being said, I still think I like VP's draft just a little bit more.
Yeah, it's very hard to bet against it at this point. The synergy is just... and the scalability altogether is just very, it's there in spades. Even Lil can transition, picking up an Aghanims at some point into a damage dealer. And, you're up against an IO, you're up against a Shadow Shaman. Some of these squishier targets are just going to simply fall in the fight. So it is going to... I feels like this game is going to be... or the win condition for F5 is completely contingent on them coming out of these lanes with an advantage. And, Night Stalker, Nyx Assassin, Shadow Shaman, they are heroes that want to make that happen, but... it's going to be difficult against all the survivability, as you mentioned, the elusivity kind of VP. We've got Time Walk, we've got Burrow out, we've got Pounce out, we've got Leap out. So AA, he's kind of the only low-hanging fruit for this VP lineup.
Also there's the obvious of it's Illidan playing Night Stalker from the safe lane. I don't even know the last time I've seen a Night Stalker safe lane. BZ is going to start the game by getting hit with an arrow. Doesn't matter, Bounty Rune with Grievel's Greed, it's all there for him, so it's all well and good. But safe lane Night Stalker with Shadow Shaman isn't really like the scariest lane in the world, but it's going to mean that once that 4-minute mark rolls around, this hero is going to have boots at the very least. Earn is probable, and of course he's going to be going for upgraded boots and whatnot, but the first nighttime phase is definitely earlier than when VP are actually prepared to fight. So that may just instantly win F5 the rest of the laning stage.
Mid lane, arrow going to fly. BZZ going to be able to dodge it. Up against no one, it's going to be a bit of a difficult matchup, at least early on here for BZZ, as he does, of course, not have Acid Spray, but nice deny coming out from no one either way. Bottom lane, Pasha. And just take some harass from RMN as well as Yol, and he'll be zoned out of this lane effectively, but You know, if he picks up his Iron Talon in due time, he should have just a fine time. And on the other side of things, Golden Star, he should be fine to survive this lane. I mean, yeah, you got the Chilling Touch, Harass coming out, but great regen on this hero, so he can trade pretty effectively with kind of any hero in the game. And he should be able to, at the very least, soak some levels in this lane.
Unless an arrow lands. Got him with the Chilling Touch. There it is. On to only himself, though. They're still going to chainsaw him pretty well and just kill him off straight away. I was going to say, like, Dark Pact is usually pretty good up against Spike Carapace, but when Nyx Assassin actually hasn't sealed up anything, he's pretty easy to kill.
Yeah, he's going to take a spill for the first time, but still, he's got half a level. And you look at Pasha, and he's about at the same. So, right back into the lane he'll go. Illidan will trade with Pasha, and very few heroes can trade with a Void. Night Stalker, for the most part, is one of them. He's a very tanky hero innately. So he can kind of hold his own in this lane, and maybe they go a little bit greedy with the Shadow Shem and try and get him either an initiation tool or perhaps on the way to something like a Glimmer Cape or an Aghanims.
As bottom lane is looking like it's going to be pretty darn smooth. This mid lane, though, is definitely not your standard mid lane. Alchemist going up against Sand King. Caustic Finale versus Acid Spray. I mean, the chip damage is definitely a little bit more so in favor of the Alchemist. He can take things a little bit more carefully with that Acid Spray. But Sand King right now, 14-6 versus the 7-0 of BZZ's Alchemist. Caustic Finale now with the backup of Burrow Strike is incredibly dangerous for the Alchemist. You're not going to be able to easily last hit under those Caustic Finales because it's always just going to be potential for a huge drawback. And now that no one actually has his bottle, this lane just got so much more difficult. At least for the Alchemist, there's some stacks, or at least attempted, by RMN, but I'm not even sure if that's going to be safe because, well, Lil's right around the corner.
Yeah.
They land an arrow, Alchemist might just be dead.
Looking for a courier as well. Does have the pounce, or the leap, excuse me, skilled up, so should be able to, if he gets sight of this courier, take it out. And that would, I mean, you already talked about the advantage garnered in this lane thus far by no one, who's a player who always seems to win his lane. But if the bottle is denied here from BZZ, that's going to be of major concern. RMN, though, he's got a bottle of his own, and he's going to bring that in, and that is kind of what we expected out of this game for this IO to be present in the mid lane, but hasn't been thus far. No one's in trouble, though, here. He's going to be forced to pop the Fairy Fire. One more right click may have actually brought him down, but RMN just a little bit low here, and now the Flying Courier will come out, so it's actually pretty much just wasted time here now that that arrow is going to miss for Lil in this mid lane. Bottom lane, Pasha.
Go again for this bottom lane now. We got 2 points in Shackles from the Shadow Shaman. Pretty much just purely in an attempt to shut down this Faceless Void. It seems like they kept him out of the lane at least as much as they can, but still level 3.5 is pretty darn good, all things considered, from this Void. He's been stealing a lot of gold from just snagging those creeps that are pulled off to the side. So, yeah, he's feeling pretty good about his lane, Faceless Void. I would say, on the whole, VP should be feeling pretty good about how this game is going. Pasha's going to lose a regen rune. Feels bad, but really for Fantastic 5, this is where things have to find some success. Night Stalker has 900 gold on top of what he already has. Level 4, slightly above average for a Night Stalker game's usually support role for this phase. If he spends it just farming, I don't know. I feel like they have to at least get a kill on someone in the lane here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and immediately you'll see Pasha back out of the lane as the nighttime phase comes in. He's got a PMS, so doesn't have an Iron Talon, but should be able to at least hit some creeps here. Whereas top lane solo messing with the Nyx Assassin a little bit. So it is going to be, you know, him being a safe lane Night Stalker, it is going to be a lot more obvious as to when he's missing than perhaps if he was of the roaming nature. But as you mentioned, he's going to be very close to that urn. So, you know, can grab up the phase boots beforehand if he wants to in this nighttime phase, and would like to look for a kill at least by the end of the duration of night.
Looks like VP might be the first ones to strike on the night front. We got Lil rotating up towards the top lane, and now that Spike Carapace is up, that's all well and good, but Pact will get rid of that every single time unless Slark really messes up. So Golden Star now the one under the gun, but they do have Pasha caught on the bottom lane. Crippling Spear is there with the Void and the beatdown with the shot that got him. There we go. Don't even have to leave the lane. Just room service for the Night Stalker.
Yeah, Lil still stalking top lane. Got a ward down on this cliff as well, so we'll be aware. We'll be wary as to any support rotations. He's going to throw the arrow out now, and it's going to be a hopeful one. So sticking around top lane is Golden Star. He's going to survive, sitting on pretty much parity with his counterpart in terms of experience. But the death going to be a little bit costly going forward for Pasha. We mentioned it before, though. He just simply needs his ultimate in this game. There's so much to contribute into it that he should be just fine picking up his levels.
We have the Alchemist recovering as well from kind of a slow start up against the Sand King, who's been forcing him out of lane constantly. Has just done it again, and he looks like has cleared out at least one of those stacks that our man was creating for him. CS-wise, not super impressive for the Alchemist, but he's still up there, so pretty much just Alchemist things. And no pressure so far from the VP squad. It is going to be a situation where for VP they can afford to not apply a ton of pressure directly to the Alchemist. They just apply pressure on the whole as a team. We'll try to go fishing for BZZ. Arrow going to miss. Unfortunately, our man is at like half HP. Would have been a very easy kill to go for, but so far this Mirana has not really done a hell of a lot. One arrow to land on the first blood for the Nyx Assassin, but since then hasn't really been finding success with this level 2 arrow. Has even gone for the Blightstone.
Yeah, I'm actually impressed that she's level 3 at this point. Look across the game, and she's not all that far behind. It does feel like a lot of wasted time thus far for Lil, but you know, as we mentioned, this is a hero that out of the support role can end up scaling a little bit later on, but she will hit an arrow over onto the Nyx Assassin. Ice Vortex is there. Cold Feet's gonna proc, and it'll be a dead Nyx, so you can only hope for a creep deny at that point, but nicely shot. Just as we, you know, talk up Lil, reverse caster's curse, he will find himself a kill there, and that'll be close to the level 4 mark at least for this Mirana. But as you mentioned, you know, BZZ, he's farming away and recovering nicely, and no one, although he's finding farm in this mid lane, is no longer really applying much pressure. This is not the hero that, you know, once you leave your lane, you're concerned about your tower going down. So it feels like F5 are fairly happy with this overall. Now up to the top lane goes Illidan. Ramsey's forced to pact out and pounce as well, and he will be just fine for the time being. They'll give some time over to their Shadow Shaman in the bottom lane, but this also gives time to Pasha, and Pasha's going to pick up that coveted Chronosphere relatively soon here. They will get the top tower denied by Illidan, but
Yol, Chronoed, arrowed. He does get the Hex off somehow, but he's dead anyway. Faceless Void, 79 base damage. Easy clubbing there for the Shadow Shaman kill, and Golden Star is frozen up towards top lane. Fortunately, looks like Ramsey is forced to use the ultimate to just book it. So it will just be a kill for VP after all is said and done. Chronosphere used, a little bit of Mirana rotation there, but as you said, we are just giving Lil so much power by mentioning how he's not doing anything. Now he's just going to kill everyone and just to prove us wrong. But for VP, that's just like one of the many combos that they have with the Chronosphere. Right. It is so much more deadly, especially since the Ancient Apparition, since he hasn't had to do all that much versus the Nyx Assassin in lane. He's pushing a pretty fast level 6. I mean, Shadow Shaman is doing very much so the same. He already has his level 6, but Ice Blast with all this stun setup is going to be very difficult, especially for the Alchemist. That's one of the reasons why they don't have to directly apply pressure to him, because they have such a good hard counter in the AA ult.
Yeah. And we've touched upon it multiple times. Oh, Crippling Fear is going to find Pasha. They have an arrow from the south side, and it will connect onto Illidan. There's a TP inbound. Yol is pretty much out of mana, so Illidan's going to be the trade here. VP, they'll get the better end of this one. The safe laner for their offlaner, who had his Chronosphere on cooldown anyways. No one ends up picking the last hit up, unfortunately, on that Night Stalker. Yol's hanging around. Arrow gonna fly. Armen will be able to dodge it, but they can simply dive him here. No one. He's gonna catch the Burrow Strike. Spirits will fly out. Lil could be in trouble. They'll drop it down, though. Can they get the Shackle off onto no one? No mana for Yol. He's stuck in the trees currently. Has a burrow. He burrows out to the east. He's going to be scouted, though. Golden Star has an Impale ready. Pasha, though, 30 seconds until Chrono is simply going to back them off by walking at them. And that's going to be Serpent Wards down here for the Radiant side. Fantastic 5. Some poor trades in the bottom lane. Ramses as well, just kind of farming up the jungle here in the meantime. So no one really pressured all that heavily. Nice rotation from no one. He's going to bear fruit.
Can't really blame Yol for dropping those wards there, though. It's like just the perfect spot up against a potential Sand King, or double kill, including the Sand King, which would be absolutely huge for the Shadow Shaman. Like, he just gets level 6 with the Arcane Boots. Suddenly he's halfway towards something like a Blink Dagger or something like that. So, again, you can't really blame him for going for that, but that being said, it is just a kill on a Mirana, which usually is pretty bad, but not this Mirana. It's kind of okay for Lil to be dying in those situations, especially going so deep for a kill onto an Io with level 2 freaking Starstorm. No one's gonna get jumped by Vendetta over towards the mid lane. Spike misses, but they do land the Hex, do land the Shackle. Looks like it's no harm, no foul. They get the kill. Mirana's going to arrive. Starstorm will do this time pretty much nothing. Even if arrow lands, it's not even gonna be thrown. So it is a very nice kill there on the Sand King.
Moonlight Shadow popped as well, so that's gonna be a big cooldown off the board here. for the Dire side, and a nice reaction, nice response coming out from Fantastic 5. Dire side is going to be spotting Illidan's rotation up towards the top lane, and they're going to be TPing in the Void, and they do have Chrono. Do they have an Ice Blast? They do as well. This is a tanky target, though. He's going to be difficult to bring down just with these two heroes, and he's very fast, but the Cold Feet, it'll proc on top. Yoel gets inbound. You will get the Shackle off. There's still a chilling effect up on this Night Stalker, but it looks like he'll survive. He has the Urn as well, if need be. He's going to be able to silence up Solo and will earn up in the trees. Now the Nyx Assassin coming through. Pasha is out of mana. He's going to get impaled up. Spirits will be there. Solo trying to make it out, and he does out of vision. They had a Void available, but he gets out. They do get the return kill. They waste the Chronosphere as well. Lil going to come through now with the arrow. They still are fight ready for the Radiant side, but they'll back off and play it safe for now. BZZ, he's got his Armlet up here, 12 minutes in, 2,200 gold as well. Has not been pressured in the last little bit, so pretty happy with where he stands in the game. And the key thing is as well that, you know, even though F5 are losing heroes up, this Chronosphere, it's only affording them, you know, 1 or 2 kills at the most. Their safe lane and mid lane towers are still up, so their jungle and mid lane is still safe for BZZ to farm. So F5 certainly stifling the bleeding thus far.
That is just a little bit short there for VP. Any other one hero there would have been an insta-kill. So Reward's going to be dropped over towards the mid lane. Yol's going to hex up no one just because. This is kind of hard to deny up against. Do you think no one has the chops? This tower, either way, is definitely going down, so Shadow Shaman pretty much doing his job. Oh, that sucks. Pasha killed that one Serpent Ward, which would have gotten the kill.
Rip.
Jeez.
And some free gold on the way as well. Nyx Assassin coming through with Vendetta. They do have a sentry on the ground. It is nighttime, though. Not sure that they quite saw him. Arrow going to fly out, not going to connect on anyone, and everyone will simply back away for now. Going straight towards that Aghanim Scepter is Illidan. And he's about halfway there at this point. BZZ farming away. He's going to play the true carry in this one. Everyone else going to be a little bit more utility oriented. Pasha bot lane is going to have his Chronosphere up relatively soon as Golden Star rotates through under the cover of Vendetta, but that's going to expire shortly, and Pasha will be able to back off.
VP are closing in on the Blink Dagger on the Sand King. Opted to go for drums first, kind of Bat Rider-esque opening there from the Sand King, but they have also the Shadow Blade on a Ramses. So between those two items, they are pretty much as fight ready as can be. It is still possible to see those heroes bursted down, though, unable to kill off the Night Stalker convincingly. By the way, is going to get a pretty good angle onto Pasha. Gold Star, they'll see the Moonlight Shadow be casted out, so they should all be fine. Solo, Ramses, both hit with a couple of Arman's balls. Ice Blast coming in onto the Io. Poor Io, man. Why you gotta be like that? Gold Star's still thinking about coming in here, but even with the Ice Blast down, not really sure if this is a good spot unless you land a spike onto 3 heroes. Chronosphere, though, is gonna land to 4 heroes. Where's the combo? Here comes the Epicenter. Gold Star already dead. Illidan is gonna slip away from the Epicenter, but BZ's not as lucky. Alchemist down. Yol gonna try to TP out. Not gonna happen. Double kill for Solo. Chronosphere is a pretty good spell, I heard.
Yeah, I seemed a bit curious for them to go in there. I mean, you feel fairly powerful in the early game innately with this lineup, and, you know, the Bro Strike, as you mentioned, was very nice, but you don't catch the Void in that. You're not able to Crippling Fear him up. More than likely in close quarters, you are going to lose that fight. And they don't have their steroids as well. They don't have their overcharge. They don't have their damage reduction. They don't have their sustain available to them from the IO. So going in there 4v5, I mean, only the Ice Blast was expended for that, and that is a fairly low cooldown when all is said and done. So it was a bit aggressive from F5. They're going to lose BZZ, who's a massive target in terms of his value. And, you know, you take a look at the net worth, and it is going to spiral out of control, dip very, very steeply in Virtus.Pro's direction after that fight.
And, well, you can't really afford to let VP snowball, because once that happens, that just means your Alchemist doesn't have anywhere to farm. Your Nyx Assassin and his assassination skills, Night Stalker and his assassination skills becomes a lot harder because you're losing control of the map. There are fewer places where you can go to get kills. Everyone from VP typically will tend to be closer to one another, plus with Blink Daggers coming up, Shadow Blade on the Slark, they'll be able to reinforce even if they are a little bit further away. F5 really need to be the ones in control of this phase. Even though Alchemist, yes, is closing in towards some of those really heavy-hitting big items, it just doesn't seem like it'll be enough because of the fact that there's an Ice Blast on the field. And now we have Ramsey looking to use Shadow Blade on a poor Shadow Shaman. Yeah, you're pretty dead, y'all. TP out. No, he's dead.
Yeah, he ends up using the Shadow Dance for good measure. Would have got the kill likely regardless, but he was deep behind enemy lines. There's a tier 1 in the mid lane up, so better safe than sorry for Ramses. He'll find himself a pick off, and this early game aggression is just not working out for Fantastic Five. There are too many ways for VP to deal with it, and their heroes have proved elusive enough. So they get a pick off during the cooldown of Chronosphere, and that is perfect for VP. Now they can look to group up when Chronosphere is back up again, and the threat is far too large for an Alchemist lineup to be fighting against.
Ooh, Slark's going in. Regen's gonna top out his mana. I don't know if he can kill the Night Stalker. Just to the north, there's a much easier kill in the IO. And I don't think the IO actually has anything. Oh no, he's gonna tether to the north, TP out. No support, RMN. Gonna stick the landing. But we can see just at this point, VP have so many dangerous heroes just on a single hero basis. Slark can definitely get those solo kills. Sand can get those solo kills if he wants to use the Epicenter. Just pair up Faceless Void with any other one hero, and that represents some pretty easy kills. For F5, any one hero is going to struggle to kill any one hero in VP, and that's really not a situation where you want to be in when you are trying to space create. They'll snipe the courier, though. That's not bad, I guess.
It's a little bit of an influx of gold, but doesn't really stop VP from doing what they want. They already had the Blink Tiger up on their Sand King. Ice Blast is going to fly out. Mid lane will connect onto Golden Star. And now Illidan in trouble. Burrow Strike will be short, though, from no one. They're going to jump forward looking for the Chronosphere, but cannot pop it at this point. Arrow going to fly through. Does connect on the Golden Star. It's going to be pretty much a max range arrow, but very deep for them to commit to. And looks like that'll buy them enough space to bring down this mid lane tower with the Glyph on the sidelines here for the Radiant.
Golden Star's still coming in. That's way too close for comfort there from a Nick Assassin, I think. He was just like 200 range away from a Chronosphere. That would have been real bad. Looking for a spike angle right now, and Pale's not really going to be friendly to him, though. They're going to jump on Yol once again with the Epicenter prepped in, and the Ice Blast. BZZ is going to shatter immediately. Yol's going to imprison himself with the Serpent Wards. I don't think he's going to actually survive this. No, he won't. Now everyone from VP trying to make their retreat. They'll lose the Void. But still, it's a 1 for 2, and they're not done yet. Burst Strike now onto the Nyx Assassin. Spike Harvest will already use. He'll go down instantly. Ramsey gonna pounce in onto Illidan. He can't fight this Slark. Not a chance. Armin gonna try to yank him out. He'll get him. But now the IO is in a pretty bad spot. So it looks like the tower with no creeps here. VP will be forced to let both of them live. But still, it's a 1 for 3 exchange. Another great exchange for Virtus.Pro.
Yeah, definitely so. And they don't even end up using the Chronosphere. So they can consider, fighting immediately as Pasha respawns. So this is very concerning for F5 side. And VP are getting exactly what they want. They're bringing down the Alchemist almost every time exclusively in these fights. And he's got his Radiance up in a couple hundred gold here, but 19 minutes in, certainly not quite ideal. No Boots of Travel on top of that. So really can only kind of keep one wave shoved out and essentially just farm. He can't even do that against this Slark with a Shadow Blade, against this Blink Dagger Sand King, and against the potential initiation as well from the Void. Meanwhile, Ramses, he's going to be able to get his invisibility off. Solo in trouble. The Chronosphere is going to connect on 2, but it's also on 2 teammates. Starstorm will come through and finish off Golden Star. Very fortunate with the second star there. Now Illidan, he's going to drop as well. Yol tries to make it out. No bash for Pasha, but they get a 2 for 1. And Ancient Apparition seems like we touched upon it at the draft screen. The only hero that F5 are able to eliminate. And now VP really have nothing deterring them here from continuing forward, taking out this tier 2. Glyph is going to stall it up just a bit, but 25 seconds with Illidan on the sideline. No one's going to clean up this wave very quickly with Caustic Finale, and they should take this tier 2 for absolute free.
Getting those cheesy pickoffs is kind of what these heroes are designed to do. Nyx Assassin, Night Stalker, find someone out of position, kill, get out really quickly. And that's kind of what they have to be doing in order to get BZZ any sort of space to farm. But because now they have one tier 2 tower down, because all their tier 1s are down, VP, they're just 5-manning across the map. And it doesn't even seem like they're falling behind that much in their farm. Of course, Ramses is just slaying heroes left, right, and center. But we even have Mirana, of all heroes, packing the Hand of Midas. So VP are going to be able to keep up at a really, really good rate to what F5 are throwing at them, while at the same time maintaining control of the map. At a certain point, VP may be able to go in towards that Roche Pit as well. No one's going to get jumped over towards mid lane, but Ramses is here to slay Yol in the back. Ice Blast coming in. Yol is going to die to that. Ramses stuck in the Serpent Wards, but he bought a lot of space for no one to get out off to the side. He'll Burst Strike up to the north, and he should be just fine. Ramses BKB going to assure his survival. And that will be that. The Mirana died elsewhere. I'm not really sure what happened there.
Yes, Mirana somehow ended up dead. It looks like the Night Stalker for Illidan may be able to bring her down, but Either way, it is a 10-second BKB charge for overall across the map, a 1-for-1. And they end up using the Serpent Wards, which is maybe a slight concern. But now, Illidan does have his Aghanim Scepter up, so they can look to kind of render VP a little bit more blind. If they get a gem, that is, going to hinder Ramses considerably going forward, running around the map with this Shadow Blade. So this could be a little bit of a power peak for F5. They may be able to bring down this tower top lane as well, as Illidan will keep the siege creep at bay and should be able to bring this down. Ice Blast going to fly through, and actually will end up backing him off for the moment.
Seems like the top tier 1 is forfeit, but with the Vlads up on the Faceless Void, Roshan is very safe. Not exactly the fastest, but no one in the area, so it doesn't have to be fast. They'll take it down eventually, and it is very nice, of course, for the Night Stalker to have this Aghanim Scepter, but having a double life now on most likely the Slark means that your Aghanim Scepter needs to do a lot of heavy lifting. Like, having vision on the enemies is all well and good, but Shadow Shaman doesn't have a Blink Dagger.
Yeah.
Nyx Assassin doesn't have a Blink Dagger either. So, like, how do you actually capitalize on that extra vision? You really need to, like, land a multi-man Impale or get the jump on them at a really good angle. I'm not really sure if that's in the cards right now. Golden Star is going to see everyone coming in, but again, the Impale angles just aren't there, and VP have been pretty good about carrying detection.
Impale from the Vendetta is going to catch Lil. They don't get the silence off, though, and they're kind of hesitating on this relocate attempt. Now Chronosphere is going to catch Golden Star, but it's not really that great. There's no follow-up. The mech comes through from RMN. It's going to keep him alive barely. He pops a haste rune. He's looking for Lil, but he will get pulled back by the relocate. Now Solo, he's going to be silenced up, but no one. He's still ready to defend his teammate, and overall it'll just be Pasha going down. No one not able to get a Burrow Strike off, and very decisive movement from F5, able to extract themselves from that scenario top lane. Essentially, they fight 4v5, win that. They get a gem now on their Night Stalker, and BZZ bottom lane was farming in the meantime. So in a vacuum, a very good set of events occurring here for Fantastic Five.
That's the IO mechanism coming in big there. It was a really, really nice save. From no one, just with the Burrow Strike, with the Epicenter. It was all prepped up well, but in the end there was a ward trap. Got the Faceless Void killed off, and for VP they were without their Slark, who was coming up towards the top lane, but just a little bit too slow. He's now going to go in for RMN, has a lot of heroes to tether to. He should probably be fine, unless this Ice Blast is a lot more damage than I expect. It won't even hit, but the Burrow Strike will hit onto 2. That's good. That'll kill off the bug. And IO is in a little bit of trouble here as well. Rams is not quite fast enough. We'll try to use the pack damage. Arman's gonna go right towards the Sand King. That's not your escape route. Now he's dead. I guess there was no escape there anyway, but VP kind of salvaged that rough top lane fight with a nice 2-kill and probably this tower as well.
They will get a tier 1 in trade, but definitely the worthy trade for VP. They are the beneficiaries of that, no doubt. And looked like Arman maybe slightly late on the trigger on the mechanism. Could have kept the Nyx Assassin up. Maybe he's able to get off a Spike Carapace or another Impale there, and one of them survives, but they end up both going down. And now right to the high ground they go with Aegis, conveniently enough. There's no glyph here. Darkness is going to be popped. They should be able to just get this tier 3 and back off to safety. But we'll see how they end up playing this. Concoction is going to be queued up. Jumping forward with the Crippling Fear onto no one. They're going to try and go in. Pasha turns. They pop the BKB and no Chronosphere target available. So no one going to end up wasting what is likely his 10-second BKB there. And it is a bit unfortunate for VP. But no casualties. No whiffed Chrono. So could certainly be worse.
Pasha actually time-walked or moved in with Chronosphere still on cooldown. He didn't have it for another 2 seconds, so I think he kind of baited his friendly Sand King. Solo's gonna get left in the river, all alone, all solo. He's gonna get a little bit of help here, but Golden Star is gonna pop him and dead on him, so there you go, Ancient Apparition down. But that was a really kind of nice mind game play from Pasha. I will scare them with my potential Chronosphere, which isn't up yet, but the only person he actually scared was no one. That forced out the BKB, which kind of sucks. But it's not really the end of the world. Like, end results, BKB, 10 seconds. Not really the most important thing for the Sand King to have that long duration. And losing an Ancient Apparition, who already has a mechanism, no one cares except for him. So VP still in control of this game. The Alchemist's farm, though, is coming up in spades. Travels, Radiance, got the Yasha towards those illusions coming up next. That's great and everything, but again, this Ice Blast just hanging over his head because there's an H operation on the other side, he needs so much more farm than Alchemist normally needs.
Yeah, and he's not nearly at that stage yet, especially considering how well Ramsey's doing relative to the entire map. He's got a Basher now on top of the BKB that he picked up earlier on. So, I mean, even though he has solo kill potential, and let's say even though he's not the most scary in the team fights, he's not going to be killed by anyone on the F5 side. It's going to take a lot for them to bring him down. He's going to take a major misstep, a misusage of the BKB, but speaking of killing off heroes, yeah, Ramsey's going to continue that trend. 6-0-9 on the Slark thus far, and meanwhile, top lane, they will end up getting the Mirana with relocate usage. No relocate usage, so looks like Lil will simply walk into her death, and that's going to be enough, perhaps, to deter VP from pushing forward. But they do still have this Chronosphere. They still have an Epicenter. They still have an Ice Blast. So they're at least going to put their Aegis carrier on the high ground and chip away at this range Rax.
It's going down pretty quick. Ramsey is going to get stunned up by the potion, void spellcast and whatnot. No one's going to miss his Burrow Strike just to get him out of there, and it looks like he will be just fine. Free damage though on the range Raxes, and with their no True Sight on the ground. Is that no? They have a gem. Okay, Night Stalker still has that. They'll be fine. But VP losing the Mirana there again isn't really a terribly huge deal. This is a support Mirana.
Yeah.
Halfway towards the Aghanim Scepter, died with Hand of Midas available. Feels bad, but and she is actually going to be doing a ton of damage. This is looking more and more like a core Mirana who had a really, really bad game. But for Fantastic Five, this is kind of what they have to be doing, get those pickoffs. But on more important heroes, they've only been killing off these VP heroes who kind of can die, and Slark has so far had a really easy game. Yeah,
daytime, Ramsey's going to take advantage of that knowledge and knows that he can walk up into this base with the tier 3 down and look for a pick. Luckily for F5 side, Yol was able to back off in time not to be picked off there. Top lane shoving in, so it will force no one back for the time being, and the entirety of VP's lineup as their Aegis did expire around the 27-minute mark. They'll pick up a gem of their own and wait this one out. They're really in no rush. Everyone doing very well in terms of the course farming, and as you mentioned, even the Mirana starting to hold her own here with that Midas ticking away halfway to her eggs.
Ooh, this is an interesting item to have on a Slark. Normally at this point, it's, you get your Eye of Scotty because it's Eye of Scotty, you upgrade the Shadow Blade or whatnot. Going for Eagle Song instead. Definitely one of the rarer luxuries, I think, on Slark.
Yeah, and
I don't think there's any chance for Ethereal Blade. I think it's probably Butterfly.
Yeah, you're straight into damage here, essentially. It doesn't feel like you really need the defensive capability, but this item just gives Slark a lot. Attack speed is very good. It's at a premium, certainly, on the hero, and just having that extra bit of agility for damage definitely helps out. A lot of mobility as well with the Flutter available to him, so don't hate the choice.
Is the Salt Cuirass just better, though, up against, like, Acid Spray?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a few better choices overall. I think even Scotty gives you a bit of a catch-all and gives you chase potential as well. But, I mean, really, he has kind of the pick of the litter. Ramsey's just so really far ahead. I mean, you look at Alchemist, and sure, his net worth is higher, but he's not providing as much in the fight. So I definitely feel like Ramsey's can still get a lot of work done and feels essentially unkillable. But it does feel like maybe the stats, overall stats, are just a little bit better against the damage profile of F5 side, which is not very heavily into physical.
I mean, he's so far away from being 6 slotted, so just getting these items up. Pick any big item, and it's probably going to be at least somewhat effective here for the VP side. But on the other end, we got a smoke up. Fantastic Five. They have the Night Stalker Gem Vision. This is a great angle for them.
Blink as well, 4 golden stars, so they're positioned well. If they can get this Void out of the fight, that would be massive. There is a gem on the Mirana, though. Keep in mind.
Oh, not.
Sir. They bought one up.
It's on the Slark.
Okay, so it's on Ramsey's. They do have one, but unfortunately, they'll move over to the west in due time. And it looks like that smoke not working out. It looked like it could have been a great angle from F5. Now the ward's down and the smoke expired. It's going to be a lot more difficult for them to execute. And it looks like they simply will have to wait for the comfort of their high ground.
Getting that fight would have stalled up in Aghanim's Sand King, which isn't really the biggest thing in the world, but would have been definitely nice for them. That angle is just so perfect. With VP having the heroes that they have, yeah, they can kind of redeem bad positioning somewhat because they have their leaps and their time walks and blink daggers. But if you instantly lose your Faceless Void, you're pretty much crippled through that entire thing. Who, by the way, is going to go for Illidan over towards the top lane. Looks like Goldstar going to try to provide him a little bit of cover by killing off Ill. In the meantime, Illidan's still not going to go down to the combination of Pasha and Soul. He'll be relocated out. That'll leave the Nyx Assassin all alone, though. So, Night Stalker's fine, but now the IO is in a lot of trouble also. This is not looking that great for Fantastic 5. They're going to lose a tier 2 tower at least. IO actually is going to tether up before anyone notices he's back. Ice Blast going to come in. Illidan is actually now left behind. He's the one holding the gem. He's the most important to keep alive, and he's going to drop the gem. They lose the IO as well. Now BZZ's in the front lines. He'll get Fro struck up with the Slark right on his ass. I don't think he can actually escape here. They'll lose him as well, and the Serpent Wards. Oh, that is not good. VP now have a free crack at the tier 3s.
This took a turn for the worst and quickly for Fantastic 5. 3 heroes on the sidelines, none of which have buyback. No one in the game currently with buyback. Yol, he'll be the 4th. And that's a triple kill for Ramses, who is now godlike and has taken this game over. Ultra kill for the Slark, and that should be the end of this one as 4 heroes down, none of which have buyback. Tier 3s eliminated in the top and mid lane, and the towel will be thrown in, so we'll go to a 3rd game for these tiebreakers. And if Pro Dota manage to take out VP, we'll go to a 2nd full round of best of ones. But Virtus.Pro, for now at least, crushing the hopes of Fantastic 5 to make it into the playoffs. BTS Series number 4 EU Division, guys. We're gonna have one more best of 3 at minimum coming up today. It's gonna be Virtus.Pro. Looked very sharp in this game, but Mike, it just feels like they're going to be facing up against Pro Dota, but it just feels like at some points in BO1 format, sometimes you just win at the draft screen. And, you know, despite F5 kind of holding their own in this one and delaying what seemed like the inevitable, just feels like VP had quite a bit of advantage at the draft.
Their AoE team fight never even came together.
Yeah.
It was all just pickoffs, right? So we didn't even get to see VP's draft at their peak.
Yeah, it just felt like, you know, Void plus 1 hero, any hero except the Slark, alongside the Void would not a kill. We saw it with the Mirana, we saw it with the AA, saw it with the Sand King. So yeah, and all together, much more scary. So Fantastic 5 never even really could group up as 5, just trying to desperately get their Alchemist to the stage where he's actually scary off by his lonesome, but unable to get there. And a very good showing from Ramses overall, 10-0 and 11 on this Slark, 600 GPM, 670 XPM. So had himself a whale of a game there, and VP will look to carry this momentum forward. They're going to face off against Pro Dota, who, you know, to some extent looked a little bit shaky in the first game of the day. And if VP are able to take it, they're going to join Vega, Elements, and Friends in the playoffs. So stick around, guys. BTS Series 4 EU Division here. MRP, Mike Loris, going to bring you what could be the final best of one of the day in these tiebreakers.